No, thank you. Thank you guys for being here today and this weekend and for covering our sport. I know a lot of you, we get to see many of you every single week, but a lot of new faces, which is great to see as well. And, we were talking about this earlier. If there's one word that I would use to describe this weekend, it's proud. Today wasn't just a race. This was a historic moment for our sport, for Mexico, and for the global motorsports community. And there were a lot of folks that came together to be able to make this event happen. First and foremost, a huge shout out to the industry, teams, drivers, everyone throughout the garage area for coming together. The logistical planning, it wasn't perfect. We never thought it would be perfect. We learned a lot of things. But the partnership and collaboration we had with the teams and drivers was great. So we really appreciate their support, both getting here from Michigan. Obviously, they're going up to Charlotte and then eventually Pocono. Has been fantastic. To Ocesa, if any of you are planning on putting an event anytime soon in Mexico, go to Ocesa because they are hands down the best event promoters, probably one of the best promoters we're going to have this entire season. So Federico Aleman, Federico Gonzalez, Rodrigo Sanchez, Alejandro, everyone on the Ocesa team, we started talking to them about a year and a half ago, actually probably 2 years ago, about this event. And we started planning conversations, and from the very start, they have been incredible partners. So we appreciate them. We had a lot of different broadcast partners on site. So Amazon Prime, if you guys had a chance to scoot out for a couple minutes, saw their stage for pre-race and post-race. Amazing location, amazing backdrop that they had. Appreciate their partnership and support of their fourth race of their portion of the season. CW, obviously, yesterday for Xfinity. Televisa, a new broadcast partner for us in Mexico. It's going to give us a lot of new eyeballs for our sport in this country, which is fantastic. And then Fox Mexico as well. And then the last thing that I'd say is, one of the coolest parts about this weekend is seeing the reaction from the fans. I had the opportunity to go up in the stands a few times. Both Friday as the cars rolled out on the track for the first time, yesterday, and seeing the hometown hero, Daniel Suarez, win the race. And then obviously throughout the entire race today, whether it was the start, passes for the lead, passes throughout the field, the end of the race with Shane dominating today. The energy and the passion of the fans here are unmatched. And we had a lot of fans come in from the United States. We had a ton of fans from Mexico. 90% of the people that came to this event were from Mexico, 44% from Mexico City. So a really strong contingent of fans, a lot of people that have been avid followers of our sport, a lot of first-time fans, and confident that a lot of new fans coming out of this weekend as well. So really proud of our sport today and this weekend, and thankful for everyone to make it happen.
Absolutely. We'll open up for questions. I'll start with Jordan, then we'll go to Destin.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. A couple questions for me. Not will you be back next year, but what is the likelihood you will be back next year?
Oh, you put a different spin on it this time. We're very hopeful to be back here in the future. We've said this time and time again that, if you look at the evolution of our sport over the past 5 or 6 years, right? And we went through a bit of a transition in leadership. We have Steve Phelps and Jim kind of, at the helm. And we've been bold and we've been innovative. We've done things like races in downtown Los Angeles and building a temporary stadium there. First ever street race in our sports history in downtown Chicago, and this was the next milestone moment for us, is bringing a race internationally. And I can tell you we're very bold about continuing to bring our NASCAR Cup Series internationally. Mexico is a great place to do it. This weekend is a great example of that, and I would say we're very hopeful to be here, long term.
Looking at as you put together the schedule for next year, some of the teams mentioned that they would like or prefer maybe like an off week either before or after. Is that feasible though? Kind of looking at how things have already fallen with the Daytona 500 announcement, and we know when Homestead's going to be next year. It doesn't seem like that's realistic.
It's possible. We've spoken about it quite a bit. For this first year, it made the most sense just being in June, having a new broadcast partner with Amazon Prime. They're really excited about having the Mexico City race. As we talk about, potential opportunities in the future, I think to your point, having it located adjacent to an off week would help quite a bit from a travel perspective. the challenge is we don't have many off weeks. We have a couple off weeks. So we do have some options, and we are looking at those options. Ideally, if we do come back, it would be around an off week, but still have some work to do on the 26th schedule. Yeah.
Cool. We'll go to Dustin, then Bob, then Jenna.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Ben, in looking at the future for this event, typically when you guys do new events, you don't do one and dones. So when you are at this point non-committal, I think is a fair way to describe it, for next year, why would this be potentially a one and done as opposed to like a 2 or 3 year thing, which is kind of what you guys have typically done to kind of try to build an audience and then kind of see where it goes and then maybe look at going somewhere else if that's the case?
Yeah, I would say, a lot of it is just as we're going through the planning of putting together the pieces of the 2026 schedule, there are a lot of dominoes that need to fall, and every domino affects another domino as we start to stitch a schedule together. So, this is a new event. Every time we do a first-year event, think about LA, think about Chicago, we learn so many things. We've learned a ton throughout the past, I don't know what it's been, 9 or 10 months since we announced this event. OCESA has learned a ton, and I think it's a good opportunity for us to do a deep dive and postmortem. But our hope is for this to be a mainstay on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule, and for us to return here in the future.
One other thing, I'm sorry. Ben, you referenced the 90% of the crowd from Mexico for the event and 44% from Mexico City. So what was the attendance for today's race? What was your attendance for the weekend then?
I don't have the exact figures on that yet, but we'll take a look at it after this weekend.
We'll go to Bob.
Bob Hawkers, Fox Sports. To follow up on that, did the attendance match your expectations or your projections?
Yeah, we were happy with it. The stadium section was packed. The front stretch looked really good. Turn 1, there were a ton of avid fans that were in the Turn 1 area. And, it was great. And, I think what's just as important to us as the amount of people is the fact that there were, avid fans that were here, there were casual fans that were here, and there were a ton of new fans that had never been to a NASCAR race. And we talk about this a lot of times when we go to new events. Take Chicago and LA as an example, 70 and 80 roughly % that came to both of those events for the first year. And every time we have one of those events, we hear back from our fans, and they're continuing to tune in events or continuing to buy tickets, and that's important to us. We had a lot of new fans that came out this weekend. Hopefully they found a new favorite driver. I think a lot of them are now Daniel Suarez fans if they weren't before, and hopefully they'll continue to tune in to Pocono in the rest of the season.
And, you were talking about fitting it in the schedule, but is there any, do you have to look at the economics of this event, either from your end, or does OCESA have to look at economics from their end to see if you want to do it next year, or do you feel like whatever your budget projections were, you've met them and that's not an issue?
I would say, as we look at any decision that we make on the schedule, we're always considering a handful of variables, right? And that's probably one of them on both our side and OCESA's. I would say for us, this is more of a strategic move as a sport to expand our footprint globally and internationally and to a new massive fan base. Just being in a country with 90 million people and over 20 million people in the larger Mexico City metro alone, that in and of itself is a success. And you guys probably came in, you got to drive around town, see the billboards, see all the activations that OCESA did. That is a success for us. So I would say, in my opinion, that carries a lot more weight than the economics or financials of the event. Sure, it is a variable that we consider, but strategically, it's more important that we focus on those factors as we make those decisions.
We'll go to Jen and then Jeff.
You're going to love this question. There's a small faction of the industry that was negative about this event, and they went on social media and they complained and said they weren't leaving their hotel, it was dangerous, their safety was in jeopardy. Does that disappoint you at all, considering it was a safe event, everyone else seemed to be enjoying it?
Yeah, and I would actually give a ton of credit to our safety and security team on our side and OCESA's side. The amount of logistics and planning that went into this entire event, from transporting all the hauler drivers from Michigan down to Mexico City, as they transport out of the country, everyone on the ground here, a ton of credit to our team, because everywhere that we go, and especially, I mean, we are a logistics machine. We're really good at doing it domestically. We don't have much experience internationally. So I give a lot of credit to the team that helped put that together. And, just walking through the garage area this weekend, a lot of people that I spoke to, a majority of the people I spoke to, were incredibly happy. They're happy to be down here. They consider it a massive success. And a lot of people enjoyed their time. They love the city. They love walking around the different neighborhoods. They love the food. I love the food every time I come down here. So I heard a lot of positive remarks.
We'll go to Jeff.
With some of the travel woes, what can you guys do differently next time? What's your view of some of the snafus that it took to get some of the teams and drivers down here?
Yeah, I would say all in all, if you look at it, it's a very small percentage of the industry that was impacted in traveling down here. That said, there were challenges, right? So we knew coming into this that it wouldn't be perfect. It's been since 2008 that we've done anything like this, and so much has changed since then. And I would even say, from some of the people that I spoke to that came here in 05 through 08 with the Xfinity Series, quite a few of them actually said the process was a lot simpler. So will there be some growing pains? For sure. We're going to do a postmortem on our side around the event. We're going to collaborate with the teams. I spoke to Jeff Gordon on the grid. I spoke to Justin Marks a couple times. They all had some really good feedback for us. And we're going to get together and put our heads together on, hey, what worked? What will we continue to replicate in the future? And what changes would you like to see? And put our heads together on, if we do come back, how do we make sure it's as efficient and as effective as we can? Part of that is probably logistics planning. Part of that is probably schedule. And then part of that is just how we think about planning and programming out this weekend as well.
We'll go to Luis and then Freddie.
Me. How? Thanks. About the future of the race in Mexico City, what do you think that you are fighting, for example, the next year with the Formula E, Formula One, possible IndyCar in the first part of the year? Do you think that NASCAR have a great space in Mexico for this kind of race?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I appreciate it. It is a factor. I would say the beauty of our sport is we're so unique in a lot of different ways. And we try not to compare ourselves to other sports, but if anyone watched today's event or yesterday's event, whether you're a new fan or you've been around the sport for a long time, you understand that our style of racing is very different. It's bold, it's aggressive. Watching the starts and restarts 3 and 4 wide going into turn 1, a lot of bumping and banging. That's the DNA of the sport. And at the end of the day, the best driver and the best team, which was Shane and Daniel, ended up winning. And, I think that's a common thread that you see across all of motorsports. But I think the beauty of our sport is we are unique and we're bespoke in the style of racing that we contribute. And even though there is some crossover between, the different, Formula One and IndyCar and Formula E, I would also say we also have a lot of unique characteristics in our fan base as well. And I think that gives us the ability to stand on our own.
We'll go to Freddie.
Hi, Ben. Congratulations for this event. I would like to ask you, in this moment, do you have a signed contract with Mexico for more years? And also, if not, how many years do you consider that could be a good number for establishing NASCAR Cup Series here in Mexico? Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Can't get into the contract details per se. We did have a multi-year contract. We have an option to extend, and we'll make a decision here in the next month or two.
Cool. We'll go to Israel.
Hi, Ben. After what you saw all of this weekend, this inaugural event and the return of Xfinity Series after almost 20 years, what's the main factor refrains you from saying, yes, give it a go and say, yes, we're going to go back 2026? What's the main factor you consider right now is the thing that refrains you from saying, okay, we're going to go back? Obviously, I know the schedule you guys kind of shape the schedule at the end of the year, and it's early, but well, as of right now.
Yeah, no, it's a fair question for sure. As I mentioned, we're working on planning out the 2026 schedule, and typically a lot of events, especially the second or third year events, will come all together when we make the 2026 schedule announcement. So more than likely we'll hold it until then. But like I said, a lot of it is we just want to rehuddle internally, want to rehuddle with our partners, and talk about what the future might potentially look like. So we have so many new things that we've learned, so many great things that happened this weekend. And we have a survey that's going to go out to the fans. I'm excited to see what their response is to this weekend, and very hopeful that we'll return in the future.
We're going to go to Zach and then Sebastian.
Hey, Ben, Zach Albert, NASCAR.com. What part of the atmosphere here, either today or just the weekend in general, maybe stood out to you the most?
That's a good question. If there's one thing that stood out to me the most, well, there are a couple actually. One is just walking around. I mean, walking around into some of the fan zones and activation areas. I saw a few videos on social media of drivers walking through the fan area, and I mean, fans were all around them, asking for their autographs, asking for pictures. I thought that was so cool to see. And I spent a lot of time in the stadium section over this weekend. I went up and down the front stretch, but I spent a ton of time in the stadium section just because it was so electric the entire weekend. Like I said, you got to see the cars go through the stadium section, and anytime there was a pass or someone would rub fenders with someone else, you could hear the fans over the sound of the cars. I saw Daniel after the race yesterday, and he's like, it was amazing because there aren't that many times. He's like, this may have been one of the first times that I actually heard the fans over the sound of the engine, and the engines are loud. So that was really impressive, but it was fun to watch it in the stadium section and then also see the reaction from the big screen that we had there. So I loved it. The pre-race show that Ocesa put on, post-race, the podium was a little bit different for us, but I think a unique aspect, potentially something that we expand out to other events as well. And, I think it was just fun. Every time we have a first-time event, especially in a new market, people just seem elated the entire time, and it was neat to be able to watch that.
Okay, we'll hit Sebastian, then we'll wrap up with Giselle in the back.
Hello, Mr. Kennedy. Congratulations on such an event, and thank you for the amazing experience this weekend. Many local fans felt priced out of the event, while for example, many of my friends in my university and fans that I was able to interview outside on the streets wanted to come here to NASCAR. They felt that the event was very expensive. If the goal of this event is to expand the NASCAR and the series in Mexico, if you renew that contract here, would there be a different pricing strategy in order to bring more fans into the stadium?
Yeah, it's a good question. We at NASCAR for this event don't set the pricing strategy around it, but it is a good point, right? And you think about a lot of our NASCAR events that we have in the United States, we pride ourselves on having entry-level options for a lot of the consumers. And I know that Ocesa had a lot of the same as well. So I'm sure it's feedback that we'll share with them. I'm sure the fans will share that same feedback as well, and we'll collaborate with them and as they put together a decision around that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Ben. If you come back next year, what will be the biggest challenge? Or I don't know if maybe you already considered to do something differently?
The biggest challenge, I don't know. I mean, I would like to pinpoint something, but honestly, I hate to say it, it gets a lot easier in the second and third years usually for us, especially for a unique kind of event. Like, I think back to Chicago. I mean, there were so many questions and uncertainties going into it. We didn't know what the courses would be like. We had never set up a temporary course before. The second and third year, they're still difficult. They were a lot easier than they were the first. What I would say is that if we do come back in the future, we want to partner up with Ocesa, but we want to partner up with local organizations and communities to have a 365 presence. We have the Mexico Series down here. They have been great for us. I think it's been great having a series that has a home and roots here. And we've had success with it, right? You got to see them participate on Friday and Saturday. And I'm confident a lot of the drivers that were competing in those races we'll see on Saturday in the Xfinity Series. We'll see maybe Friday in the Truck Series at a lot of our races. And like Daniel, we'll see him in the NASCAR Cup Series. So I also think that's a testament to what we've built internationally. Is not only is it an opportunity for us to get exposure for NASCAR globally, but it's a pipeline for drivers, for team owners, for partners to come up into the national series. And we've seen some success stories. So we want to really partner up and have opportunities for us to be in front of fans here 365 throughout the year. And we're not going to be able to have a cup race here every single weekend, but there are other ways that we can be more engaged in community, and that's what we're excited about.
Thank you. And we'll get one final question from Matt Weaver.
That actually covered it. I'm good.
Okay,
Cool.
we'll get Jerry.
Go for it. Bring us home.
Jerry Jordan, KingdomTires.net. So I'm going to go back to, I guess, February or March. And there was rumors everywhere, we're not going to make this is not going to happen, this show is not going to be pulled off, it's going to get canceled at the last minute. Should this send a message to people that when NASCAR puts its mind to something, that you shouldn't doubt it, and that this will become a reality as you talk about moving around and doing other big events like this?
I think so. And I heard some of the same rumors. There's always a rumor mill in our industry. It seems like I can never keep my finger on the pulse. I imagine it's every industry that's out there, though. We never had any doubts that we wouldn't be here this weekend. We were 100% confident we were going to be competing here. And I'll leave you guys with this. I think one of the coolest moments, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, obviously seeing all the fans and their reaction was incredible. But being at the start-finish line yesterday and today, as they played both of our national anthems for Mexico and the United States, it gave me chills. It gave me goosebumps. And I think the beauty of our sport, we've seen this several times over the past few years, is no matter what's going on outside of these four walls, outside of this racetrack, even outside of this country, sports can be great unifiers. And NASCAR has proven that time and time again that it builds communities. It brings people together with shared passion and shared values, and that's what we saw this weekend. People from all walks of life come together and watch an amazing race with some of the best drivers in the world, and that's what I'm most proud of.
Steven Stump of FrontStretch.com here. Come back for more great racing videos, and if you like us, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.